Monica Mercedes. All right, Monica. All right, on our phone now is Dan, the serial rapist.
All right.
Dan claims...
Why is Dan calling us?
Dan is calling us because he's upset about something. Okay. Is that right, Dan?
Excuse me?
I say, Dan, you're calling us because you're upset about something, but I'll reveal that later in the interview.
Yes, that's quite correct.
Yes. Dan claims to have raped over 100 women.
Dan, where are you in the country?
I live in downstate Illinois, 100 miles or so south of Chicago.
All right. And he is a 43-year-old man. And...
Would you be a white man?
Yes, I am.
Yes, he is a white man, Robin. And Dan, as you all might agree, his penis should be cut off. But that's not what we're here to find out. We're here to find out about what is in the mind of a serial rapist.
Yes, how did this happen?
Right. Now, Dan, if you notice, Dan will sound quite rational and stuff. Because,
seems all right, yeah.
Because, Dan, of course, most guys who rape don't necessarily look or sound like rapists. Isn't that true?
That's quite correct, as a matter of fact,
They
yes.
don't fit a stereotype.
And your first sexual experience was a rape that you committed at the age of, what, 17?
Give or take a year or so. To the best of my recollections, yes, that's correct. And it was before I'd even had my first consensual sexual experience.
That's what I was wondering. So that was the very first sexual encounter.
It's around 17 years old. And how did it happen? How did you come to serial rape someone, the first rape?
The very first one, and mind you, these go back about 20 years in time, so I've never been able to accurately determine exactly which one might be first. I've got it narrowed down in my memories to maybe 2 or 3, but the one that I believe is the first was an occasion when I was hitchhiking from point A to point B, and it was at nighttime, and some lady stopped and picked me up. We drove for approximately 100 miles down the road, and I'll spare you all the sordid details. I decided to make my move at the end of that trip when she stopped along a place on the side of the road to let me out.
And when
Do you use a weapon?
No, on that particular occasion I did not.
Yeah, it's easy for you to overpower. Are you a big, powerful guy?
I stand 6'2", and I weigh about 215. Even back then, I was a good 200 pounds.
All right. So when she stopped the car, you what did you do?
Well, I was in the passenger side, of course, and obviously she's driving the car. My backpack that I was hitchhiking with, this is the final leg of a long journey, mind you, was behind the driver's seat. I got out of the car. I walked over to get my backpack out of the seat immediately behind her. And on that very first occasion, it was kind of a snap decision, a spur-of-the-moment type thing.
Did it take you by surprise that you had fantasies of rape before that, or just totally took you by surprise that you were going to rape her?
No, I had entertained those kinds of fantasies for years, ever since the time of my earliest teenage years.
And you never were successful with women?
Well, I'd never gotten to the point where I'd really made an effort. As I say, this was before my first consensual sexual experience.
So let me understand something.
Yes?
So she stops the car, and all of a sudden you say on a snap decision, she was attractive, I guess, to you. But does a woman have to be attractive in order for you to want to rape her?
In my particular case, yes, although that's not necessarily true with all rapists.
Okay, so you found her attractive, and then all of a sudden you dragged her out of the car? Did you ask her to step outside? What did you do?
I guided her out of the vehicle. I reached her door was open, and her window was open. I reached in and opened the door, and I guided her to a wooded area outside of the vehicle, maybe 20 yards from the car. And
what do you mean guided her? Like, why did she get out? Did you say to her?
Well, when I say guided, what I mean is that I put my arm around her and physically escorted her out of the vehicle.
I see.
So you're dragging her?
Not really dragging. I guess she was kind of stunned by the situation. She may very well understand. She just sort of walked along with me. It wasn't a case of dragging her so much.
Do most of your victims resist in any way, or they just go along with it?
There have been a few who have resisted with varying degrees of severity. The vast majority are simply stunned into acquiescence.
Mm-hmm. And how long does the act usually take? Is it quick?
Yes. A rapist, when he commits an assault, is in such a worked-up state of mind that usually it takes maybe 15 to 20 seconds from the time penetration occurs until...
Right, so you're never interested in satisfying the woman in your fantasies. You're not going to give her such great sex that she's going to fall in love with you. It's all about your quick gratification.
On one level, yes, and there's a lot more to it than that, of course.
Do you ever fantasize that they'll fall in love with you?
No.
You do not. You don't want that.
They want this at all.
Well, that just seems entirely unrealistic.
Do you like it better when they cry and scream and beg you for mercy?
No, actually, I prefer them to remain totally silent and more or less motionless.
I see.
So if they cry and scream, what happens?
if they cry and scream, I would, and there certainly have been instances such as this. I'll still conclude the act. It's just but it's more distasteful to me because there's a certain degree of reality. You practice these. What I'm trying to say is that you rehearse these things in fantasy for many years before you actually attempt to make the process.
Right.
And you visualize things proceeding in a certain fashion. If something occurs which had never occurred in your fantasies, the situation takes on certain overtones of reality, which can be very distasteful because all of a sudden you realize, hey, maybe I am hurting something here.
Right. When you rape a woman, do you ever consider, well, this is someone's daughter or this is a person who has feelings? None of that enters into it. You don't feel any remorse afterwards?
Yes, I have felt some measures of remorse afterwards, which is not all that of an unusual thing. As far as thinking about this as somebody's wife or daughter or something, those kinds of thoughts can make the whole situation seem very unappealing. And so what people such as myself tend to do is immediately discard those kinds of thoughts. You want to think of a woman as being purely an object for your own gratification now.
And after you do this act, like in the example of the one with the car, what did you do? Did you run off or did you take her car?
Oh, no, I didn't take the car. I've never stolen anything from any of the victims. Well, that's kind of a...
That would be wrong.
Let me rephrase that, yeah. Let me rephrase that. I've never taken anything as far as money or jewelry or their cars or
Have you ever killed anyone?
No, I simply, after this particular assault, after this first assault, I simply went and got my backpack and started walking down the road. A moment later, I saw the car drive away in a hurried state in the opposite direction, and I continued my hitchhiking.
And you weren't nervous that the police would be called or anything?
Well, this was such a remote. This was I think in Missouri, or it might have been the southernmost part of Illinois. I was on the return leg of a long trip, and that didn't really worry me at the time because it was the middle of the night. I could have seen any approaching a vehicle that came from the distance and had plenty of time to have sought cover in the woods.
And there was no traumatic event in your life, like in your childhood, that might account for this behavior. Is that true?
Well,
sort of.
I'm wondering why is he loose and fancy-free at 17?
Excuse me?
Well, he was hitchhiking.
Yeah, but, I mean, was there... But it seems like he was just on a road. Yeah. Like no family. You
had your parents, I assume, or you were just on a quick hitchhiking trip?
I made a number of cross-country hitchhiking trips beginning when I was 16. When I was 16, I got myself a backpack, and when all was done and said, over a period of a couple of years, I had thumbed myself across country on 6 separate occasions.
Right. So getting back to my question, you said that there was nothing in your childhood that could even possibly give you reason to rape.
Well, there was a combination of things that occurred to me. There was nothing traumatic. You know, when I was in prison in 1990, I was convicted of a crime that stemmed from a failed assault, and I was sentenced to 12.5 years in the Illinois Department of Corrections.
You tried to rape a woman, and you failed, and then she gave a description to the police, and you went out that same night and tried to rape again, and the police caught you.
No, actually, I had made it all the way home after the failed assault, which occurred not too far from where I was living at that time. I made it all the way back home, but I was in such a worked-up state of mind that I decided I was going to go out and hire the services of a prostitute in order to act out the rest of the fantasy, which is something I had never done before. Right. And it was because I left the residence and got my car and was driving around about an hour after the assault, and obviously there was an all-points bulletin out for me. Mm-hmm. I was spotted, apprehended, jailed, and convicted a year and a half.
Were you raped in prison at all?
Excuse me?
Were you ever raped in prison?
No, I certainly expected to be. This was my first time of incarceration, and I thought this thing was pretty much par for the course. But as I discovered upon actually going into prison, the version of prison that Hollywood presents us with and that which actually occurs are two very different things.
So you didn't have any problems in prison?
No, most of those types of problems occur in your maximum security institutions, and I was in medium and minimum security the whole time.
So you were never caught for any of the crimes that you're confessing to right now, and the fact is you don't even worry about it because of the statute of limitations.
Yes, it's been over 9 years, Howard, since I committed my last assault.
So you stopped this?
Excuse me?
You stopped raping?
During the time that I was in prison, I immediately began to work with the institutional psychiatrists who were made available, realizing that I had a deep-rooted problem. 4 years into those one-on-one therapeutic sessions, it was suggested to me that I voluntarily enroll myself in what was then a brand-new state-of-the-art recovery program designed specifically for the rehabilitation of sex offenders, be they child molesters or rapists of adult males or females. It's a voluntary thing. You can't be forced into it. I did submit myself to this. I spent the last 17 months of my incarceration in this facility, and I developed the tools that are required for conducting the affairs of my life in a way in which I do not have to repeat actions as bad.
So in other words, are you a good-looking guy? I mean, or is it very difficult for you to get women, or that doesn't play into it?
Well, I don't know if I'm really qualified to judge my own looks. I wouldn't say that I'm ugly or bad.
Are women attracted to you? I mean, do you find that, just in your everyday life, women are friendly to you? And
are you able to make relationships with women?
It's not easy at first, no.
Okay. So you're not, and did you rape black women, white women? Was there any type of race or any particular type of woman?
Strictly Caucasian and my own approximate age bracket.
I see. So somewhere in the age bracket of, 20 to 40?
Yeah, as the years went by, they would stay within a few years of my own age.
If a woman's overweight or what you would deem ugly, you would not consider them as a target?
No, not at all. My victim profile, as it is known, it was a Caucasian female, fairly attractive, healthy-looking, no perceptible form of handicaps, hair color, eye color, nothing like that.
Did you use a rubber when you had sex with these women?
No, not at all.
And and you never raped a child?
No, not at all.
And you think that
you don't have any remorse even now, do you?
Not even a little.
Well, when you say you didn't rape children, do you think that child molesters are sick people?
Well, interestingly enough, I do. In the facility where I spent the last 17 months of my incarceration in the sex offenders program, there was about 100 people who lived there, and about 70% were child molesters, about 30% were rapists. And I myself always found the the frame of mind of the child molester to be incomprehensible. I know that's laughable because so many people can look at someone like me and say that's incomprehensible, and yet for a rapist, I understand the way their minds work perfectly. But for child molesters, I was never able to understand how anyone could look upon an innocent child in a sexual manner, let alone physically or emotionally or sexually abused.
Let me ask you this.
But you didn't answer my question. Do you care that you hurt lots of people?
I care as much as I can. There's a wide separation between my intellectual and emotional bodies. It's very easy, and it's a very natural thing for me to instantly turn off my emotions and act in a completely cold and calculated fashion.
All right, so let me jump ahead here for a second. Why are you upset? You have a problem that you want to talk about. It seems that where you live, let me see if I understand this. Maybe I can explain it. I can do a shortcut. Where you live, you met a woman, and a woman who lives across the street from you. And you became friends with her. In fact, you claim that you dated her. Okay. And after that, she mentioned to the cops your name. And someone in a conversation mentioned to her that you were a rapist or that you had been convicted of assault. And she contacted the newspaper. I say thank God. She's a hero. And she found out that the paper was more than happy to start publishing articles about you. And you are mad about this. Well, why be mad? I mean, you understand that people are afraid of you.
Yeah.
Yes and no. Yes and no. I understand why people can be very concerned with upon learning that someone like me is living in the midst of them all, and yet I find it completely unfathomable. Society is in such a big ado about sex offenders, and they want them to go into recovery programs. They want them to be treated, and yet here I am, what I consider to be, and regardless of what I might have been before I went to prison, I am a working example of the concept that these programs do work and that these individuals can reemerge into society and alter their lifestyles in such a way that they no longer offend.
Well, let me
and everybody seems to completely overlook that fact. Everyone else says, well, all we're concerned about is with what he did 20 years ago.
You're saying, let me understand your point. You're saying that if you go ahead and rehabilitate yourself and you are living a quiet life, if they out you, so to speak,
then why bother?
Then why bother even rehabilitating yourself? Is that what you're saying?
There have been times when I've had that attitude. I have to tell you, there has been more than one occasion when I've had the attitude of, what the hell, these people want a Ted Bundy in their midst, I may as well give them one.
All right, so let me ask you this. Don't you admit, even though you've been through counseling and everything, that there is a possibility that you could return to raping, that you still have rape fantasies?
Oh, absolutely. There's no such thing as a cure.
Right, so you could admit, then, that perhaps you could go off at any minute.
And anything could set you off.
Right. Let's talk to a couple of people, all right? Let's see what they have to say about this. Okay, Greg, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Howard. I want to say, first of all, Happy New Year to everybody there on the show.
All right, thanks.
This guy is a predator. He's a sick man. The newspaper should tag him. He should have a chip in him that follows him everywhere he goes for the rest of his life. My wife was raped, and it's easy for him to shrug off his emotions and to turn off his sorrow towards what he did, but my wife lives with that for the rest of her life. Okay.
All right. What do you think of that?
His frame of mind is perfectly understandable to me.
Right, so you can see that a lot of people will be upset with you when you say, gee, I'm a poor victim now.
Me.
Mary, go ahead, you're on the air.
You are a lousy piece of garbage. He is a lousy piece of crap. And I would love to find out where he lives, and I would come, because I'm not afraid of him.
Right.
And I would blow his goddamn head off.
Now, let me ask you something, sir. Now that they've published you in the paper and outed you, are you encountering a lot of people like Mary on the phone here who would like to blow your head off?
You know what they do is they do sick animals. They put them to sleep.
What about that?
They should put him to sleep.
Do you encounter a lot of this?
Oh, absolutely. For 2 solid years now, I've got a number of bullet holes in the garage. I've had my car shot at. I've been followed through the countryside for miles at a time. I live with what I live with. It's something you have to do. I mean, I don't have any place else to go. I don't have any interest in going someplace else.
Do you feel bad for yourself?
Excuse me?
Do you feel like you're a victim?
No, not at all.
Phil, you're on the air. Phil, go ahead.
Hi, Howard.
Hi, Phil.
How you doing?
Oh, Phil, you are a newspaper reporter.
Right, and I think Danny Engle's leaving out a huge chunk of this story. If he's trying to portray himself as, this guy who rehabilitated himself and now he's cured, well, maybe he has cured himself, but he has also found an outlet. And he even told me that you need some sort of outlet. His outlet in Peoria, in his neighborhood, where he lives alone with his mother, where if all these bullets are whizzing by his head, you'd think he'd move so his mother wouldn't be endangered. Regardless, his outlet has become being a terror of the neighborhood. And he's calmed down now ever since I wrote articles about him about a year and a half ago. But I did not write stories about, oh, my gosh, we have a rapist in our midst. We have tons of rapists in Peoria. The problem with Danny Engle is he did not stop there. He threatened women with phone calls. He sent them all sorts of sordid messages, sent things to their work. He drove them up a wall. And
so, Phil, you're the guy who's been writing the articles on Danny.
Right.
Daniel, have you ever spoken to Phil before?
Oh, on a couple of occasions, yes.
So Phil is the one that you're mad at, right?
I wouldn't say mad is the proper word. He is the author of the stories, yes. I don't have any personal animosities towards him.
You don't.
But is it true that you were harassing women?
Those were the accusations, yes. Once these ladies across the street, this lady that you were referring to initially and her friend down the block, once they discovered who I was and what my background was, they decided that they were going to make it their sole purpose in life to drive me out of the town. Phil, the fellow who was just speaking, was simply a tool that they used in the stream of harassments against me. This other gal across the street, she has a number of personal acquaintances on the police force here in town.
But now you have Phil, Dan, now you have Phil on the phone. What is it you would like Phil to write in the newspaper? Would you like him to say that the ladies are wrong? Now's your chance to talk to him. What do you want to say?
Well, the only thing I would say is that Phil has already demonstrated on 4 separate occasions that he is incapable of presenting the facts in an unbiased manner as one would expect a newspaper reporter to do, which was the reason why, after his very first story, or perhaps it was the second one, I decided that I was going to write a book about this entire situation, and I've also designed a website describing the events from my point of view as well, giving the entire 9 yards of the background, not just the selected bits and pieces of information.
Right, so you sound like a guy who feels like he's been abused. You've been abused by the newspaper and by these 2 women. That's how you feel, right?
I wouldn't sub-select it. I would just look at the whole situation as a whole and say it is the sum total of the newspaper, the police department, the state's attorney's office, and certain individuals in the neighborhood.
Bill, will you continue to write these articles?
Well, I can't if he keeps acting like a goofball. He just keeps getting in more trouble, and he baits people. And this is the first time that Danny Engle has talked to me on the phone. He only calls me in the middle of the night when I'm not around. I think he has a problem with male authority figures or any sort of men, and I wish if he had something to say, he would call me and tell me. Howard, trust me, the police know what this guy's about, and he's about no good, and I have done him the greatest favor on earth, which is writing about him, because this is his hobby. He lives for this. He lives for the attention, and I did him the greatest favor on earth.
All right, so you're saying he's getting off on all the attention.
Oh, gosh, this is his hobby. He doesn't work. He does nothing except cook up these schemes, sends me these notes in the middle of the night, and that's fine. I don't care. But this is what he lives for. And if it's going to keep him from raping people, fine.
Right.
But don't let people think because he speaks well, he does, and because he's intelligent, he's very intelligent. But listen to how he describes how he took these women out of the car, that he guided them out. He dragged them out and raped them. And he's also using the present tense when he's talking about his likes and dislikes. So as far as to trust his cure, I don't know.
Well, what about his point that basically if you keep writing about him and you keep creating a monster out of him, how can he ever...
might as well not even bother.
Why bother reforming himself?
I wrote one first article when the police confirmed all these attacks, not physical attacks, but verbal assaults and this near stalking he was doing of these women. Then I wrote when he got in almost a fight, he grabbed a bat and brandished it in front of a bunch of teenagers. Then when he went to court a couple times, so they were genuine news stories. He went to court, he pulled a bat on a bunch of kids, these type of things.
Daniel, what about this? Do you like this? Do you like all this attention?
No, not at all. I wish the whole situation would dry up and blow away.
All right. Phil, thank you. Phil, thank you for the phone call. Daniel?
Well, the reason I won't move is simply because it would give him too much satisfaction. Besides, I have no place else to go.
Jonathan, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think that, he has the gall to call up, and I think that's pretty amazing in the fact that who else would call up and say this,
So are you admiring his honesty?
I'm admiring the honesty. I don't condone what he did, but I think that, this isn't the Jerry Springer show.
Right.
People are going to call up and razor him. What's the point of that? Of course, he's to be razored.
All right. You're saying why are people yelling at this guy?
Well, yeah, what's the point?
What's the point in yelling at him?
Obviously, we know what he did is wrong. He's owning up to it. We're not condoning it. You're not condoning it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right. And
so how does he live? Does he get...
How do you make money?
Well, contrary to the... let's just say that for a newspaper reporter, old Phil Luciano gets his facts wrong an incredible amount of time. It so happens during the time that I was locked up in prison, an elderly aunt died, and she left me a considerable estate, which certainly didn't put me in the status of being a millionaire, but I inherited a house, I inherited a car, and enough money where I've been able to engage in my lifelong passion of aquarium building and designing and installation and maintenance for a source of secondary income.
Bob, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, Howard, what's going on? You're publicizing this guy's crimes on the air. You've done some weird things in the past, but this guy's a disease in society.
Well, why shouldn't we acknowledge it? Why shouldn't we face up to it? Listen, I want my daughters to know about what a rapist is about and that he sounds normal, looks normal, and don't pick up a hitchhiker. I don't know. I disagree with you. I don't hide my head in the sand about anything.
Yeah, but this is going way past what your norm is.
I disagree with you. I disagree with you. I think that this should be on the air every day.
No, come on.
We've had murderers on the air. What are you talking about?
Yeah, we've had people who've killed. I'd rather talk to them than not talk to them.
This guy has some serious problems. You want to help
him
out?
Of course he does. Well, you know what? You ought to just keep hiding your head in the sand about life, sir. Yeah, Craig, you're on the air.
Hey, Howard. Buddy, you're the biggest scumball that ever walked the face of the earth.
Don't talk about Jackie like that.
Hey! Exactly. And not only Jackie, but this guy, too. And I hope this guy checks out the R. Bud Dwyer video and gets some ideas. But, Howard, I'm baffled if we know who this guy is and where he is, and he's admitting to everything. What can be done about this?
There's a statute of limitations.
Why? I don't know. Why?
I've never understood.
That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Daniel, why do you think there's a statute of limitations?
Daniel, why don't you just hang yourself here on the air and just do us all a favor, dirtball?
Daniel, will you be willing to hang yourself on the air?
Please. There's money in it for you.
No, I wouldn't be willing to do that, no.
Would you be willing to watch Jackie's video?
I don't think anybody should have to suffer that.
Thanks, Howard.
Thank you. All right. So, you are not suicidal. You will not do the society a favor and kill yourself.
You enjoy life on any level?
It sounds like he does. Sounds like he's having a great time.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I enjoy many aspects of my life.
Yes. And do you crave a female partner?
No, not really. In the 4.5 years since I returned from prison, I've had no desires whatsoever to enter into a sexual, a platonic, or any kind of relationship whatsoever. I simply live by myself and stay with myself.
They said your mother was with you.
For the first 6 months that I was home, that's just yet another of the examples of the incorrect information.
So you don't crave companionship? You don't want companionship from a woman?
I don't want companionship from anyone.
Right. And your mother, what does she think of you?
Excuse me?
What does your mother think of your rapes?
Well, I've never actually queried her on the subject. Suffice it to say that she's not approving of my earlier lifestyle.
You sound very well educated. In fact, you sound like a disc jockey on an oldies station, quite frankly.
Why, thank you.
Doesn't it?
Mechanical.
Yeah, but you sound like a good morning. Hi, how you doing, everybody? So you and what about your mother? Did you ever have fantasies of raping her?
Hardly.
And you have a good relationship with her?
Excuse me?
You have a good relationship with your mother?
Oh, yeah, I would label it as being generally good through the years, yes.
Did she ever yell at you for raping and stuff?
No.
No, apparently they don't talk about it, but nothing happened in his childhood.
Yeah, some stuff you don't like to talk about it.
The truth is that a lot of people who had things happen in their childhood have no idea that they happened because they seem normal. That's all they knew.
Lewis, you're on the air.
Hey, Howard, I think this guy should be tied up and repeatedly kicked in the balls until he passes out. And then when he wakes up, we just do it all over again.
All right. Thank you very much, Lewis.
Okay.
All right. Well,
what kind of rehabilitation? Are you on any kind of castration medication or anything?
No, not at all.
What do you do mostly? Masturbate?
Excuse me?
Do you masturbate now for your sexual gratification?
I just don't have great, what you would consider to be a strong masturbation, yes. I don't think about raping anymore, no.
Who do you think about? What do you think about?
What do you think about when you do it?
Well, you have to think if I were to engage in those types of activities, it's reinforcing the old patterns, the ways in which I conducted my lifestyle previously.
Yeah, but how do you control your masturbatory thoughts? I mean, I know I can't. When a donkey appears in my dreams, I can't force it out. That's right. What do you do? How do you control that? I would suggest that you probably do fantasize about rape still.
Well, yes, there are certainly fantasies, of course, but I simply have to tune them. I simply have to turn them into of an appropriate nature. Past girlfriends, imaginary women that I've never met before, those types of situations.
Do you engage in a lot of pornography?
Not a great deal, no.
Trisha, you're on the air.
Just a normal amount.
Yes, Trisha?
Hi. I just want to say, how can you possibly think of not letting your community know what you're capable of doing when you said you still have thoughts of possibly raping or going back out and raping? How can your community not know that?
Well, it's a catch-22. If you start reporting guys like this, then
they won't go for help.
Then they won't go for help. They'll keep quiet about it. But my point of view always was on rape, that rape should be a death penalty.
A crime punishable by death. Absolutely.
Yes.
There is no cure. There is no cure at all. And I'm horrified by listening to this.
Yeah. I mean, you should be. That's the idea.
I mean, this is incredible. I would love to go out and kill this guy. I mean, I'm a psychologist, and this is killing me to listen to.
Well, then you have to go deal with those fantasies of killing people.
Yeah, really. You listen to this guy. He's an automaton. He really isn't human.
Yeah, that's right. Al, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, Howard, first of all, you're right. I mean, this stuff needs to be brought out on the air. But this guy is a waste of sperm. I mean, this guy...
Well, we don't know that. You're not saying anything we don't know. Mike, go ahead. You're on the air.
Howard.
Yeah.
How did he pick his victims?
How did you choose your victims, Daniel?
Hitchhiking, yeah, fine, but I mean, there has to be other circumstances besides the hitchhiking event.
Right.
How was it predetermined? How did he do it?
Yeah, go ahead, Daniel. I understand that the reason you feel you never got caught was that you would randomly pick. You would never be someone you knew.
No, not at all.
There would always be a woman that you encountered, like you say, hitchhiking. So there would be no ties to you per se.
No, that's correct.
And what would be
shopping center? Or how did he?
Name some of the places you would hang out and how you would commit the rapes.
Well, I had no particular modus operandi. It didn't matter whether it was indoors, outdoors, in a personal residence, in a public center. It's kind of, I can really go into this, and I can get this is the reason why I have designed a website. I know we're only going to have so much time on the air. I know there's about 10 million questions and about 15 billion death threats coming and negative comments and all that.
Yeah, no.
We're not interrupting. We just want to know.
One question: how did you pick the women that you raped? One question. That's it. Answer this question. How did you pick them?
It's one of those things, you can't really put it into words. It's just a gut-level feeling. You have to go by the situation as it occurs with the individual, whoever she is. It's not based upon hair color or eye color or demeanor.
But you would see someone. You would see someone attractive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you would focus on them. For whatever, maybe they're in a miniskirt or something, right?
Well, it could be.
What are you, a leg man? Or are you a what are you?
What triggered you?
You into boobs? What's your thing? If a woman dressed provocatively or looked like a whore, would you do it?
I don't really have any particular preferences along those kinds of lines.
Would you ever see a woman dress a certain way and go, she deserves to be raped?
No woman deserves to be raped, and I would never look at one, even in the days when I was a practicing rapist as opposed to a recovering one. I would never look at one and say, well, she deserves this or deserves that. Of course not.
Would you leave the house specifically to go to rape?
Excuse me?
Would you leave the house specifically to go rape? Like, say, I have to get out of the house and rape someone.
There have been times when I've set out on that kind of a purpose, yes.
Right.
But most of the time, it's just you all of a sudden saw a person and the opportunity was there and you did it?
That is generally how these things occur.
So let's say you saw...
Did you ever follow a girl home
Good
from
question.
a restaurant, from a store? How did you do it? Did you rape the next day? Did you ever see a girl and say, well, I want her, and then predetermine that you're gonna find a way the next day?
Yeah, and what kind of situations? And what kind of situations would you avoid?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, I heard it about 3 questions at once. I'm not.
All right. Number one, what kind of? Let's say you see a woman you really like, blah 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, something would happen that would turn you off. What would, like maybe a house alarm or something, or...
Right, okay.
Is there anything that would scare you off?
Well, yeah, a situation would occur that anything that had to do with the possibility of being immediately detected. I mean, obviously, if I was looking in the window of some house, just to give a hypothetical example, and a squad car went slowly driving down this street with its lights out, for example, that would set off...
Right, you'd be gone.
Most likely.
All right. Now, what would you do? Would you ever, look in the windows of people's homes and see a woman alone, maybe undressing or something, and then say, hey, I'm going to break in?
Well, being a peeping Tom is usually one of the earliest stages in the development of sex offenders.
So many times you would look in a window and see a beautiful woman, and then what would you do? You would just break the window and go in? Or ring the doorbell?
As a general rule of thumb, there weren't a great many deal of home invasions. That was kind of in the minority.
So what did you do? Answer the guy's question. He's still trying to get an answer.
Yeah, well, I'm having difficulty with this because I'm still not sure exactly what he's looking for.
The question is, name a scenario where you, aside from the hitchhiking thing, name a scenario where you saw a woman and tell us how you did it.
Oh, okay. Just pick one out of the bag, so to speak.
Good. That's what we want.
Okay.
The most typical, whatever, something that comes to mind.
Okay. I've always spent a great deal of time in remote locations. I'm an outdoorsman. I like getting out in the woods. If I'm in an urban environment, I'll hang out in the local parks. If I'm out in the country, I'll go to some place like a 2-lane a dirt road that heads up in the hills or something. I like exploring the countryside. When running into a potential victim in one of these outdoor remote locations... Like
maybe she'd be a hiker with a backpack or something?
Yeah, a hiker, a photographer, someone just out for a breath of fresh air or whatever.
Okay. And usually alone?
Yes, always alone.
Although that's another question I have. Always alone. If a woman's in the store and she's shopping, she's got a kid with her, she's really attractive, you say, hey, this is a potential victim here. You would never follow her home, lock the kid in the closet, and perform your act. I mean, that case would never enter into your bag, as so you would call it?
No, there's never been... I can't recall. I'm sure there's never been a situation such as that in my past history, no.
All right, so you're in the woods, you see a woman, you meet her, and then what happens next? Give us a specific instance of what happened to you.
Well, if I decide that based upon many factors, if I decide based upon the circumstances that an assault is going to occur, then I will go ahead and complete the act.
Right, and you will what? I mean, you will go up to her and what? You will talk to her first and then all of a sudden pounce on her?
Okay, well, you're looking for specific details.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Quite often, many sex offenders, especially...
No, let's talk about you. What would you do?
Okay. When I was at my peak, it's an evolving type thing. I mean, over the course of time, as this kind of behavior goes on, and if it remains unchecked, the situations grow more severe.
Because the rapes become mundane and boring.
It got to the point where I carried certain tools of the trade, so to speak, with me. Materials for restraining, for gagging, for whether handcuffs or a roll of duct tape or some cords or whatever. Usually I would render in the final 10 years, in the final maybe 5 or 6, 7 years, maybe 10's a little too long, but in the final half dozen years or so that I was a practicing rapist, the usual technique, if you want to call it that, would be to select a victim, restrain her, whether through handcuffs, through duct tape, or whatever I happen to have with me for such a purpose, just in case I ran into a situation where an assault could occur. I would render her immobile, select a saluted location, or it was, well, if we were out in a saluted location to begin with, then obviously that took care of that right then and there. If it was someplace like in a public park, for example, where maybe we're a little too close to the main road, then I would take the two of us, I would take her to a location where it was a lot less likely that an accidental discovery would occur, and commit the assault at that time in that place.
Did it make it better? Did it make it better that the woman would be frightened, like you were they would think you were going to kill her because you had her restrained and stuff? Did that turn you on more?
You missed something here. He said select a location. How do you select a location if you're already in a remote location? Did you ever walk up to a traffic light, jump in a car, and tell a lady to drive somewhere? Or how do you select a location?
What's the difference? Who cares?
Yeah.
I mean,
it does make a difference. I mean, do you need to lock it?
This guy's into such minutia. Jackie, go ahead. You're on the air.
I cannot believe they're going to make this guy continually pay for the same crime over and over again. How do they expect anybody to rehabilitate if they're going to continually make him pay for the same crime over and over? Give the guy a break already.
Okay, what would you like to see happen then?
What do you want, the people in the community not to acknowledge that he's there?
Well, right
of course.
listen,
I got three daughters. I wouldn't want a rapist dude living. I mean,
unknown to you. He's right next door.
Yeah, I mean, if someone could out the guy, at least I'd be aware.
Well, if you're aware of it, then use that information to your own benefit, but don't keep condemning the guy.
But I shouldn't tell the other people in the neighborhood that he's there?
You're the only one who's safe.
I'll keep that information to myself? You got to be kidding me. Hadassah, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah, hi, Howard.
Yes.
First of all, I'd like to applaud you for having Danny Engle on the line here on your show. Basically, you're stressing a point how someone could sound so articulate and so normal, so straight as an arrow. It's just to prove, because I have a mother who beat us and abused us so viciously, even raped my sister. And
your mother raped your sister?
Yes.
Wow.
And I visualize it so clearly how someone could be so, like, articulate, come across. You can have
so you're learning something from this. You're learning something from this. That's right. Okay, yeah, Rick, go ahead. You've got the final word. Go ahead.
Yeah, Howard?
Yes.
Yeah, I've been listening to all these guys calling in about, don't get me wrong, I'm not condoning what this guy did.
Right.
But every one of these guys that are calling in at one time or another has looked at one of these girls that are dressed, real sexy.
Yes.
And has thought in their own mind of doing something that he did.
The difference is, number one, I have never thought about raping a woman, number one. Number two,
well, this guy's telling you he's got raped.
Yeah, and the difference is, it's okay to think about it as long as you don't do it.
Right, but the thought is the mother of the action.
No.
The only difference between this guy and every one of us, especially you two on your show, looking at all this, is that he did something about it.
You should go get help. You need help too.
Well,
wouldn't you agree? Hey, Daniel, wouldn't you agree this guy needs help?
I believe that the desire to force oneself on a woman is basically ingrained into every male who's ever walked the planet throughout his entire history. Most guys don't act upon it.
Won't be honest about that.
Most guys do not act upon it.
No, I tell you, the thought of jumping a woman and taking away her dignity does not appeal to me.
Howard, how many times you said I want to bang?
Oh, I want to bang every woman on the planet, but I don't think about taking from her. I want them to agree.
Not for him.
Well, sure.
And that's the problem. Nobody's hot.
When you see a nice woman, you think about it and you fantasize.
No, I don't. I honestly don't. And I swear to you, I'm telling you the truth.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, Daniel.
Howard?
Yes.
During the time that I've spent with therapists in this field, both in prison and out of prison, one thing has always struck me as being very amazing. When you go to a program for recovering alcoholics, the counselors are always former alcoholics themselves. They know where you're coming from. When you go to a Cocaine's Anonymous, the people have always had problems with cocaine. They can relate to you, and yet not one of the therapists who have ever worked with sex offenders that I personally know of has ever been a recovering sex offender, his or her own self.
So what?
I am one. I'm there. I can understand. What I intend on doing with my long-term plans is to start helping people in this field.
So what? Your point is absolutely futile. It's like saying that you need to be something in order to help someone along. There's a prescribed...
No, what I'm saying is that...
Obviously, that's not necessary.
What I'm saying is that the past can't be changed. Yes, I wish it had not occurred. I wish I'd taken a different course, but what's done is done.
Mike, you're on the air. You're on the air with
But I can alter the future from this point forward, and I can help others to keep from walking the same path.
You just worry about you. Don't help anybody else. You just keep 24-hour surveillance on yourself. Mike, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah, how you doing?
Why are you guys worried about helping other people?
I want to know if this guy has any STDs.
Did you get any sexually transmitted diseases?
No, I never have.
Never?
No.
Nothing?
No.
You're clean?
Nothing. You raped over 100 women. You never got anything.
No, not at all.
I think that's ridiculous, man. You
Well,
never...
that's possible.
It's really not fair.
You raped 100 women. Now you're sleeping with everybody that they slept with. So you're into the thousands. I'm sure you have something.
Well, he claims he doesn't. He seems one thing he seems to be is honest.
Daniel, do you consider yourself mentally ill?
No, not at all.
Why would he? Yeah, Karen, go ahead.
Hi. I just wanted to find out if there's anything that we could do to turn him off before he decides to try to rape someone.
Is there anything a woman can do to turn off a rapist, Daniel? Is there something like could she fight?
Anything we could say?
Yeah.
I've heard several different things.
Like if a woman even just said, "Oh, give it to me," or acted like she was into it, would that turn you off? Is there something a woman could do to turn you off during a rape?
Yes, absolutely, and it also works on all other rapists as well, or at least the vast majority that I've ever known that I've personally worked with. Okay. Try to inject some reality into the situation. When a rapist is doing his thing, he's in a high state of fantasy. He's acting out something he's acted out in his mind. If the woman starts injecting reality into the situation, such as talking about family, children, husbands, and things along those lines, it can quite often knock the rapist off his
So in other words,
so
let me try to understand this. So I'm laying there, you're on top of me, you're forcing yourself on me, and I go, listen, I know this is going to happen and everything, but I'll tell you something. This has been the worst day of my life. My husband is such a pain in the ass. He just really, and then
I don't think he means it that way. What if she says, "I'm pregnant, please don't rape me," or...
No, he's saying talk about your life. Like, hey, and oh, by the way, I've got 2 kids, and they're so annoying.
I have to pick them up from school. I'm going to be late.
Yeah, and then I have my...
I see.
Yeah, am I right? Am I acting that out right?
Or what if I said I have AIDS? Or I have some kind of sexually transmitted disease?
Would that turn you off?
I'm sure it would. I don't recall such a thing ever having occurred, but I'm sure it would.
So if a woman said, listen, I have to feel...
It's important to start injecting the reality as I describe it. It's important to start doing that as soon as you suspect that an assault may occur. If you wait until it gets to a certain point, the guy's going to be so heated up that it doesn't matter what
type of things would a woman say to inject reality? Like what? Like, I have a husband?
I've got a husband. I've got 2 young kids. There have been a number of times, there has been more than one occasion when I have halted an assault and gone elsewhere because of this injection of reality. She just happens to say something in the right way at the right time, and it, kind of knocks you off your
it gets you out of your rhythm. Yeah, Kevin, you're on the air.
Hey, Howard, how are you?
Right.
Howard, I wrote a book, Your Secret to My Business, and we dealt with clowns like this all the time who uses the legal system very effectively, and the only way to get back at him is to use the system back out against him. He might have passed the statute of limitations on the criminal end, but surely there's a few clever attorneys out there would be able to get some victims that could take away all his money on a civil end with some sort of lawsuit on the violation.
Well, there you go. What about that, Daniel? You've got some money. There's something to think. But what about by publicizing this? The women that you raped come after you for civil damages and take away your money.
Well, anything's possible, I suppose.
Is all your money in a trust or anything? Is it all in your name?
No, from the time I first got home, I took steps to make sure that nothing is actually in my name. It would be very difficult, even for the cleverest of attorneys, to try and wrestle something out of me, because by all appearances to the legal system, I am a turnip, and as of course we all know, you can't get blood out of one.
Well, Jack, listen, if your heart's in the right spot, why don't you sell all your assets and then give it to a program that will really help victims and will really help people that really want to deal with their problem.
Well, there's a thought. That's something I would applaud. Jeff, go ahead.
You can help that way rather than being a counselor.
Yeah, God, that he ain't doing. Nobody gives up money. Jeff, go ahead.
How you doing, Daniel? I raped a girl last night. I was wondering, how do I go about totally cold turkey cutting out raping?
All right, here's a guy who raped someone last night, and he wants to stop.
I put roofies in a drink.
Right.
And she got a little tipsy. I put her in the back seat of the car. I brought her to a hotel. I banged her all night. Right. And, I consider it rape.
Right, that's rape. What do you think of that?
What was the question?
He wants to know how he can stop raping.
Is there like a patch or something?
Well...
Patch? Get out of here. You're not for real. All right. Mike, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes.
Hey, what's up?
You ever rape anyone anally?
I'm sorry, excuse me?
Did you ever rape anyone anally?
No.
No, that's what you think. Okay. Anyway, Daniel, at least thank you for consenting to an interview. I think it was very useful.
You're quite welcome.
I personally hope that something horrible happens to you, because rape to me is one of the most
Are
vicious.
you living a fine life now?
Yeah,
That's really terrible.
I hope there's at least some aspect to your life that isn't pleasant, because to me, rapists should really be killed. It's the most heinous of crimes.
Well, thanks for sharing your thoughts.
All right, and thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Have a good day.
All right, bye. All right, there he is. That is Daniel.
Yeah, it's funny because, when he says, say something to inject, and you don't. See, the problem is they can't tell you exactly what it would be that would turn them off.
You gotta think.
You just got to say everything you can think of. It's like finding the secret word. But I had a friend who was once in a situation like this, and finally she screamed, it wasn't even true, I'm going to be a nun. And it stopped the guy.
It did stop him. And then sometimes you can say stuff like that. You know what they do? They punch you until you shut up.
That's right. Yeah, but you don't know, so you got to try everything.
You can say something that'll trigger him to kill you.
Yeah.
So you don't really know. There's no real clear-cut answer. Anyway, we got to take a break. When we come back, we'll do the news. That's Daniel the rapist raped over 100 women and never got caught. Never.
Until he was unsuccessful.
Right. Until he blew it. We'll be back right after these words.